Hi, in this video I'm going to share with you my favourite images from 2018, tell you a little bit about my history as a photographer and tell you how you can get involved in my latest community video. At the end of every year I like to look back at the pictures that I've taken that year and pick out my favourites. It's a good way to remind yourself that you've probably had a good year of photography and that you're actually progressing as a photographer. Now, I am going to show you my 5 favourite images of the year, but I'm also going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go right back to the beginning of my journey as a landscape photographer and share with you some of my earliest photographs. I've never done anything like this before, so it should be quite interesting. So in this video, I'll be sharing my photography story, but I also want you to share your photography story. About this time last year, I did a community video called #EmbraceTheGrey. I asked you to submit images to produce a community video and the response was overwhelming. So I was really keen to do another community video this year. So while I thought I'm sharing my photography story, I thought a lot of you out there will definitely have some interesting stories and photographs you'd like to share. So stay tuned to the end of this video and I'll tell you how you can participate. Okay, let's start things off with my favourite images of 2018. So I've put together this quick slideshow of the images that are my favourites from 2018. As with 2017, these aren't necessarily my best images. They're just my favourite images, images that have a story or connect with me in some way. So let's have a quick look at those. Well, I do hope you enjoyed those images. If you want to know a bit more information about those images or the story behind them, I've got blog articles and videos to go with those images. If you want to see those, if you head on over to my blog, there's a link in the video description below and at the end screen of this video, you'll find links to all the relevant content. On the blog as well, there's also a link to my video from last year. So if you're interested to know how I process and how I go about selecting my images, using Lightroom catalog management, the link for that video is over in my blog as well. So whether you like those photographs or not, one thing's for sure, my photography has progressed significantly over the years. One of the things I've been doing recently is I've been importing all my very oldest photographs into Lightroom and cataloguing them. And as I've been looking back, it's clear to see how kind of my style and the types of photographs and how well I've been photographing things has changed over the years. And then quite often as photographers, we maybe only look back over the last 12 months to see what our favourite images are. But how often do we look back over 5, maybe even 10 years? So over the next few minutes, I'm going to pick out some of my historical images. Some of them might be good, some of them might be bad, some of them might be quite ugly. But I'm going to look back and give you a little bit of commentary about some of the images, and some of them will represent significant steps forward as my journey as a landscape photographer, and others might be just quite funny to have a look at. So why don't we go back a few years and see what one of my earliest is. Now, the vast majority of the pictures I've taken over the years have all been digital, but I have owned a couple of film cameras. One of the first ones I ever owned was this one here. It's a Franca AF300. Now, I owned this as a kid. I only really ever took snapshots. I don't think I've got any pictures to show you that I actually took with this one, but I thought I'd start with the camera though. The camera that kind of came up next, the one that I actually really started, I don't know, not getting into landscape photography, but actually starting to take pictures or significant numbers of pictures, was this one here. It's a film camera. It's a point and shoot job really. It's an Olympus Zoom 115. And I got this in 1999, just before I headed off to Australia and New Zealand for a little 1 year sabbatical. Now, if you want to know what I looked like in 1999, here's my passport picture. Yeah, I know, it's great, isn't it? But while I was away on my travels for a year, I did take a lot of pictures. And this is kind of, like I said, where my interest in photography really started. So let's take a quick look at some of the images I took with that camera. Here are some of the first images I took with that Olympus film camera. These are obviously sunset images. Now, these aren't particularly good, they're snapshots, and but they represent more to do with the memories of my time in Australia. But as I toured around Australia, I visited places like Uluru and the Great Ocean Road, and I think this is a picture of the 12 Apostles. They're snapshots, but I think what's important for me with these photographs is that's when my interest in photography was starting to build up. It's the ability to capture an image and share a story and to try and get them in interesting and interesting conditions with nice light. So it was starting to kind of plant the seeds of my interest in landscape photography. By 2004, I got my first digital camera. It was a bridge camera, a Minolta Image A1, I think it was. In 2005, I did quite a bit of exploring of Scotland, and I did my first visit to Glencoe, where naturally I took a picture of Glencoe's most famous mountain. And as I toured about Scotland, I got to witness some really epic conditions. There's reflections in the mist in this one, and there's a light in this image here. And these are unfortunately places I'd really love to go back to and witness in those conditions, but it's so much more difficult for me now. So it kind of almost breaks my heart that I was in these places with these conditions, and I just simply didn't have the skills to maximise what I was seeing. Also in 2006, I started doing a bit of hill walking in the Highlands. As you can see, I took another picture of that famous mountain. But what I also did in that particular trip was I actually walked up to the top of Buccleuch Moor, and I got this picture here of a view that less people get to take. Most people take a picture of that mountain from the bottom, and taking a picture from the top and obviously of the surrounding view really opened my eyes, not only to the kind of pleasures of hill walking, but what I could do with my camera, the types of views and the types of pictures that I could capture. And that really started to excite me, and of the opportunities that I could do as a landscape photographer. By 2007, I'd also got my first digital SLR, a Nikon D80. And I'd started shooting in a kind of mostly JPEG, but I had started taking a few RAW files. And here you can see some pictures I took that year back in Australia, actually back at the 12 Apostles. And I can start to see now that I'm starting to maybe use things like the rule of thirds and going to these locations at the optimal time. So I think some of them are sunrise, some of them are from sunset, but I'm getting some really nice conditions. I mean, if I'd love to be back at this location with those types of conditions. I think I'd obviously do a lot better job there. By 2008, I was definitely well into landscape photography. Still not very good, but I was very much into it. I spent about a year with my Nikon D80. I started buying Lee filters, and I'd gone on the West Highland Way, and during that trip, I'd spent a lot more time conscientiously trying to capture images and making the most of the conditions, as you can see through some of these pictures. Obviously, I took a picture of that mountain again, obviously. But, I can start to see the quality is starting to come there. Still, obviously, need a lot more practice. And I think that was one of the challenges for me back in the early days, was just the lack of time. Although I had more time, I didn't commit as much time to my photography. In 2009, I went to France and I went to the Alps, and I took some pictures of the region around there, some of the mountains, and also some of the glaciers. I was still pretty well much shooting in auto. I probably wasn't in manual, almost certainly wasn't in manual, in fact, probably in automatic focus, automatic exposure. So I hadn't really taken control of the camera by that point. 2012, I returned to the Lake District, and I've got some pictures here of this is me up in Striding Edge. Now, I went up Striding Edge with the focus of taking good pictures. Now, at the time, I was probably pretty happy with these pictures, but now knowing what I know about composition and light, they seem a bit basic. But at the time, I was really happy with this. But it's important that everyone goes through these images and you take images that, even if it's just at the time you like and you feel confident with, because it's about building that confidence, and these were confidence building images for me, that I could go out and I could take a landscape image, even if it just made me happy or I thought was good, and that was very important to me. And then I've got this image here that I took in Padstow one morning. And this is a particularly important image to me because it kind of represents that first landscape image that I really wanted to share with all. It might be one of the very first ones I put in Flickr, for example. You know, I might have tried to submit to a magazine. You know, looking back now, it's not amazing, but at the time it was really important, and that's why those images from Padstow and the Lake District are important to me. 2013 was probably one of the really big turning points in my life as a landscape photographer. I sold my Nikon D80 and I bought a full frame Nikon D600. Because I was investing quite a lot of money in that, I decided that I really needed to invest money in my photography. I really need to get away from that kind of, yeah, I'll maybe go out with a camera half a dozen, 10 times a year, take some landscape pictures. I was never going to get good that way. I was never going to really improve or make significant improvements in my photography by doing that level. But I needed to get out more. But I wasn't sure whether I could learn photography. So what I did was I got a hold of a photographer in Blackpool that I've been following, a guy called David Nightingale, and I went on a one-to-one weekend workshop with him. And he taught me all about composition. But I also asked him the question, it's just like, no, David, can this stuff, can photography be learned? I don't feel that I've got that arty gene in me. You know, I find it difficult. And he says, no, photography can be learned. You know, it's a skill that you can learn through practice and through education. And that gave me a real confidence boost, because I always thought, well, maybe I'm just not good enough to do this. And it gave me the confidence to go away and really get hold of my landscape photography and really start hammering home and getting out there and shooting more and practicing more. And then in 2014, this was the next great sort of movement forward in my photography. I went on another one-to-one with a local photographer in the southwest, and I took this image of Boss Castle. And this image is important to me because it represents where I learned how to start fine-tuning my composition. Not just the rule of thirds and the basics, but you know, how camera position, moving it slightly to the left, slightly to the right, up, down, where I place things in the frame, not just what's in the middle, but what's around the outside, what I've included, what I've excluded from the frame, and it really opened my eyes up on how to start taking my photography to the next level. And that's where I'm going to finish my story. After that photograph in 2014, photography pretty well became my obsession. I continued to invest in training, so workshops, one-to-one, and really most importantly getting out there and practicing the craft of photography. And that gave me a lot of confidence because my quality of images started improving. I started submitting them to magazines. I created my own website. I created this YouTube channel, and so it's really continued from that point there. So that's my story. That's kind of the history from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And now let's talk about how you can share your story. Some of the images that I showed you from my archive represent significant moments in my journey as a landscape photographer, and I'd like you to share some of your most significant moments. I'd like you to look through your catalogue or archive of images and pick out one that represents a significant moment in your life as a photographer. So this could be the first image you took, or it could represent an important moment in your life, or it could be the first image that you won a competition with. Anything like that. It doesn't even have to be a particularly great image. What I'm looking for is a good story to go along with it. And then what I'll do is I'll collate the best stories along with those images, and I'll put them out in a community video so we can share your story with everybody else. So if you'd like to participate in this community video, I've got a full set of instructions on how to prepare your image and your story and how to submit it to me in the blog article that goes with this video. Now you'll find a link to that blog article in the video description below and at the end screen of this video. I'm really looking forward to hearing all your stories. Hopefully there'll be some funny ones there, some thought-provoking ones, even some inspirational stories that we can share with the community. Well, that's about it for me now. I'm going to wrap things up. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my 5 favourite images of 2018 and a little look back at some of my older images. Hopefully you didn't laugh too much at some of them. But most importantly, I do hope you will consider submitting your photo and story and participating in the community video. I'm really excited about what we might be able to create together on that one. If you did like this video, please do consider leaving a comment and also hitting that like button. I do try and read and reply to everyone's comments. And if you did like this video and you want to see more, do also consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you do, or or if you're already a subscriber, remember to click on that little bell icon. That way you'll receive a notification as soon as I post up a new video. But until the next one, I'll see you then.